Okay, let's get started on Bad Karma, Week 4, the Fantasy Buddha version of Sid'em. I am Fantasy Buddha. Welcome to the glamorous Fantasy Buddha studio. And let's get going. At quarterback, it's not going to be any surprise here to say that Jay Cutler is probably not a good guy to start this week. Just based on his past two games, one touchdown versus five interceptions, no bueno. Add to the fact that the Cowboys have yet to allow a touchdown to a wide receiver this season, and the realization that Kellen Davis is not an elite tight end does not lead you to believe that Jay Cutler is going to have a good game. I think probably by week 5, Jay Cutler will be outside of my top 20 quarterback rankings, and I'll definitely have moved guys like Christian Ponder, Andy Dalton, and Jake Locker ahead of him. At running back, Chris Johnson is another guy that's awful. I dropped him down to, I think, 33 in my running back rankings this week, and I still believe that that's a little too high. But the volume of carries that he's still going to have available to him, whether he wants them or not, because let's face it, I've watched every snap that the kid's gotten this entire season, and he doesn't want to hit the hole. He doesn't want to try to make guys miss. He doesn't want to endanger himself in the least bit. So his speed is completely nullified because he's not even trying to break into the second level or the third level to make the explosive plays that he made back when he was CJ2K. Right now, just accept it, guys. He's CJ 1.4 yards per carry, and he's a bust of all busts, possibly the biggest fantasy football bust in the history of the game, or at least in the last 10 years, probably, not injury related. And you're just going to have to deal with it at this point. In shallower leagues, he's droppable. He really is. He's droppable because you can probably get guys like Ryan Williams and Mikel Lashore, both of whom I expect to far outperform Johnson moving forward unless somebody is able to get through to him. The Texans compound things by only allowing on average 67 yards rushing per game to their opponents. So, no, just don't do it on Chris Johnson. Can't do it. You can't afford to. My other running back is going to probably be a little surprised because everybody's darling last week, deservedly so. Andre Brown crushed the Panthers, filled in as admirably as anybody could possibly have expected for Ahmad Bradshaw. But Bradshaw is going to be back this week, and Bradshaw does not want to lose his job to this kid. He has seen what Brown has been able to do since he jammed his neck, and he knows that Tom Coughlin is a guy that's going to stick with the guys that get it done for him. So if Bradshaw does not hit the ground running, and I expect him to this week, then he risks losing the 65, 35, 60, 40 majority of the split to Brown if Brown can maintain his effectiveness. So it's not so much an indictment against Brown as it is for Bradshaw. I just think Bradshaw is going to come back motivated this week. And you can call it lazy analysis if you want, but that's a simple fact. Brown's not going to get the same carries, and Bradshaw is going to be motivated to keep him on the sidelines. I'm going to give you 3 running backs this week. Ordinarily, it will only be 2, but this is another easy one. Sean Green is awful. This is not breaking news, so you should know it, especially if you're a Sean Green owner. And I pity you if you are and you have come to rely on him. Green was able to get garbage numbers against Buffalo in Week 1 in a game that was seemingly out of hand from the get-go. That's his only usable numbers that he's put up. He's averaging, even with Week 1, he's only averaging 2.8 yards per carry. And he's playing against a pissed-off San Francisco 49ers defense that last season only allowed 1 touchdown to opposing running backs. And that was Week 16, I believe, 15 possibly. But it was against Marshawn Lynch, who was, I don't have to tell you, a man on a mission the second half of the season. Shawn Green, the only mission he's on is to the bench. Bilal Powell will be the starting running back for the Jets within the next 2 to 3 weeks. You can book it. And please let me know loudly on Twitter at FantasyBuddha, on my blog, fantasybuddha.tumblr.com, if I'm wrong. Because I'm telling you, Bilal Powell is going to be the man in New York before too long. I would say before Halloween for sure, but much earlier, likely. At wide receiver, stay away from Danny Amendola this week, even if you're in a PPR league. And I know it's going to be tough, guys. I know it's going to be tough because he's a top 10 PPR guy so far this season. But he's got the Seahawks, if not the best secondary in the NFL. They're on the short list, people. And I'm telling you, there is no set of safeties that is better than Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. Amendola tries to make hay by settling underneath safeties, finding the weak spot in zones, and letting Sam Bradford pick him out. Well, first of all, Seattle's going to probably, they don't even have to, but they're probably going to put Brandon Browner, the 6'4" corner, on Amendola, and he's just going to cover him up like a blanket. And in zone situations, the safeties are going to step up, and they're just going to out-physical Amendola. And even if he can find soft spots, that pass rush that the Seahawks are generating right now is going to be tough for Sam Bradford to sit back there and defeat. So I just don't see Amendola coming out of this game successfully at all. Even to the point that, I tell you, guys like Andrew Hawkins, I would definitely start ahead of him. And I would take the home run flyer on the Randall Cobbs of the world. And even, and this really says it, I'd even start Jerome Simpson and hope that he caught a couple of deep ones this week instead of starting Amendola, particularly in standard leagues. My other receiver that I don't like this week is Santonio Holmes. He's coming off a brilliant game, 9 catches for 147 versus Miami last week. But that's his first 100-yard game since the 2010 season, people. Don't get used to it. Once again, the Niners are pissed. They're not going to be exploited. Call it lazy analysis if you want to. I just don't see Holmes backing up last week with another good performance. At tight end, Jared Cook, he's my boy. He's a South Carolina alum just like me. But he got banged up, and he faces just, if not the best defense overall in the league, one of the 3 best defenses overall in the league in the Houston Texans. So don't expect Cookie to put up a big number this week, despite the fact that he went for 77 and a touchdown last week against the Lions. And finally, to round it out, got to get a little more Jets hate in, and it really isn't hate, but I know it's going to come off that way, especially to people that are Jets fans. But you can't start the Jets defense this week. They've lost Revis. They don't have a pass rush to speak of. And what you want from your fantasy defense is turnovers. San Fran's not going to turn the ball over. So why start the Jets defense? So anyway, that wraps up Bad Karma for week 4. Remember, check me out, fantasybuddha.tumblr.com, and on Twitter @fantasybuddha. Hopefully I'll see you again next week. Give me some feedback, folks. I appreciate it.